Okay, so this is an episode that I'm trying something new in because I'm trying a new recording application out. The other application, it may have had to do with my phone. I don't want to blame it on that application because I don't know if I ever had a problem with it prior to getting this new phone and having the application on this one. I think it's called like My Recorder app. It has like a pink icon or something, or a pink color. I don't know. But that was a really good application. But for some reason, even though it said that I could record like 39 hours or something on my phone, multiple times, more than once, I recorded not a super long recording, but I recorded a recording and it just didn't save it. I clicked like okay, I clicked save or whatever it is, and the recording it said like, this recording cannot be displayed, there's not enough space on the phone or something. And it's like, but you told me I could record 39 hours and that wasn't even an hour long, so how is there enough space for all that when you tell me that, and then now there's not, and suddenly the recording that I just put in is lost? So, say I got off a really good recording, that's gone. I thought about it this morning at work, and it's actually like, it's sort of priceless. You could consider it priceless, one of these recordings, or you could consider it worthless. But say a recording comes off really well. Like, for example, let's use a couple of recordings. Jordan Peterson getting interviewed by Kathy Newman, with Randy Newman playing music in the background. That would be even more fun. But Jordan Peterson getting interviewed by Kathy Newman, the whole thing, like, in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive or something like that. Him having all these really like great comebacks that really helped spark something in the culture war. That video is sort of priceless. And say like that video had just been lost, like, oh, we did the whole interview, oh, fuck it, we lost the video, we were using this little app, the video is gone. It's like, they could probably redo that and like attempt to play out the scene the same way, but that's sort of, at a certain point, if a recording is worth keeping, then it's kind of priceless. Or like the David Foster Wallace interview I was talking about, or oh boy, 100 different things. Well, more than 100. As I think Stephen King quoted Faulkner, as writer William Faulkner, as saying, by the way, a writer who was referred to as a writer's writer by one of my writing professors, I think. Like you might say that newer Eminem, he's a rapper's rapper. Eminem is still one of the most popular, not only rappers, but celebrities in the world, and probably in history. But nevertheless, Eminem has really turned into a rapper's rapper, where it's about the technique. It's about sort of appreciating what he's doing with the rapping. And it's not so much about the appeal if you're not sort of familiar with, it may not have as much appeal if you're not familiar with what he's doing in the first place in terms of like the genre of rap and stuff. Not to say that his earlier stuff wasn't really good, but by the way, David Foster Wallace, I think it might have been in that German interview. Actually, I think it might have been in some other interview that I was just listening to audio of rather than watching a video of. But David Foster Wallace said something about how he had sort of like dismissed Eminem, and then someone played him an Eminem record, and he's like, wow, this is really good. Like, but oh, you know what? I think it may have been in an interview where it ended with some kind of Q&A, and the last big section of it was a Q&A, and this guy had asked him about the book Signifying Rappers, or The Signifying Rapper or whatever, which was like a book about rap that David Foster Wallace, I guess, co-wrote. And he's like, so, what kind of rap do you listen to? Or do you listen to rap anymore? And David Foster Wallace is like, well, no, I listen to the Carpenters, but he's like, It's like for that time period, we were listening to like nothing but Run DMC, Public Enemy, and Schoolie D and stuff, and he was like, he expressed amusement that the people there would have like considered those cool rappers. Of course, they get the vintage cool label. They're cooler than ever, except with like the kids who don't know older rappers or whatever. But then I think he brought up the Eminem thing, but it was in the sense of, or in the context of not being a rap fan or rap listener. So, the first recording in this episode actually saved at 5 minutes long, a monstrous 5 minutes. And, not only that, but it seemed to be suggesting or even telling me, if I read the whole thing maybe or looked closely, that I could upload this stuff directly to Google, which the other application was saying that I could do if I bought the application. And I was this close to buying the other application. I mean, to some extent, I might have said for, the period of the last like 2.5 years, I've been this close to buying the other application. But I really was like somewhat considering spending like the $5 or $10 to buy the My Recorder app. And then it started doing that, and it's like, I've got to be able to count on the fucking thing recording. This one gives you 3 recording options with differing levels of quality, and that kind of throws me off because it felt like it was a good level with the other one, and now it feels like, I might be making the wrong decision, and so all of these might be somewhat tainted, and if it's not perfect, then it's nothing, but still. I said that partially for effect, but partially to, in some real sense, the idea of something not being perfect is somewhat tantamount to me to throw it out. I think it's there's like some kind of spiritual. If you spend enough time looking into spirituality, you see, you get a sense of all these sort of like spiritual anecdotes and old chestnuts and stuff. And one of them is like, I think it might have come from Adyashanti, but maybe from somewhere else. I don't know. But the idea was like a Zen master or something, maybe, or whatever, of it told it. They told somebody that, whenever you this would actually be, I think you need to hear this, Matt, but they told somebody like, well, a good way to test whether what you have to say is worth saying is if it improves on the silence. And to some extent, it's like, if something's not perfect, then it seems like it sort of degrades the silence. But if it is perfect, then maybe it at least fits into the silence. Maybe you're just breaking even at best, so maybe staying silent is not too bad. Although they say silence is violence. I've got to say, of all the Orwellian things ever, silence is violence is probably the high point of absurdity. I mean, one might not want to say the high point of absurdity with stuff like this still floating around, but silence is violence. That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. Like, literally, the absence of noise, which sort of suggests the absence of all action, because usually action has some kind of noise associated with it, even a very low noise. And, silence, if it is silence, then it's total silence. So there's no rustling, nothing, and to say that the lack of not only noise, but probably also then likely to be any action at all, is equivalent to destructive action against somebody else, is the most, I mean, again, maybe it's not the most, but it's got to be one of the purest examples of like war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength that I've ever heard. But yeah. I guess those silence is violence people would hate the Zen monasteries, right? Although they're ringing bells sometimes, I guess. I imagine there's a lot of annoying shit going on at those Zen monasteries. But if there's not, then I would like to go to one, because what I'd really like is a place that's just, Well, Matt, be careful what you wish for. It would be nice to sort of at least have some kind of place available that I don't necessarily find myself forced into, where it's totally silent, where it's complete silence. When's the last time there was complete silence around you? Like total silence. It's like, Matt, where are earplugs? No, earplugs don't cut out all the silence. I'm a fucking earplug master. I'm not an earplug master. I'm probably not even that great at putting in the earplugs, but, well, maybe that's why it's not so quiet, Matt. I put in those earplugs, and then I have put them in, and then often enough kept them in until, like, it really hurts. Just like I often keep my headphones on until, like, it hurts. But yeah, no, usually headphones and earplugs, when they say that they're blocking out the noise, they can block out some noise, but if you're trying to, like, block out some certain noises, often enough, you're going to want to cover your ears over them, or maybe put on earplugs and then headphones over them, and put on some kind of, like, meditation HZ video from YouTube, HZ being hertz, so it's like, however many hertz it is. Matt, who gives a shit about hertz? I'll tell you who gives a shit about hertz. Somebody who is looking to have a pure sound, because apparently hertz, like the regular, many people probably know this, but if you don't, apparently they say that the regular, like, sort of standard for the hertz level of music and maybe most audio in contemporary releases would be 432 or something, and apparently that's like X hertz off of the next, like, pure level, and, like, there are, like, various, like, pure levels of hertz, and then, like, this one is, like, skewed away from, like, a pure level of hertz, and people say, like, if you listen to that, like, over time it starts to sound like really, it starts to disrupt you, like, sort of on a very subtle level. And so if you want to put on one of those, like, meditation music things as, like, background noise, it's good to find one that's, like, a particular amount of hertz, like, whatever. They have them in, like, various hertz levels, but whatever amount of hertz that it is, it's good to have it that way, rather than just whatever it is, which is, if they don't say the amount of hertz, then it might likely be, like, 4 whatever. I think it might be 440 or something that they put it at, or maybe 440 is, like, the alignment level, and then theirs is skewed away from that one at, like, 432 or something. But whatever it is, yeah. Now, speaking of music, I bought Heretic by Morbid Angel last night. By the way, I traded out my music application too, because, this was like one of the straws that broke the camel's back, but the music application I had been using, if an audio file was too short, it just wouldn't show up. So say, like, I did a recording and it was like 11 seconds or something, 10 seconds, it might likely just not show up in the My Recording, like, section, My Recorder album, as the recorder things are organized in the application. And it worked that way with Heretic. I bought Heretic, and I bought a special edition that had, like, 20 tracks, and it was coming up as 19 tracks. And I was like, oh shit. And so it was from this great website called, I think it's like recordroomaz.com or something. It's a or something like that. It's a fantastic website because you don't have to have a membership. You can literally just purchase an MP3 album, and they have a huge selection. Just look up Heretic by Morbid Angel, look up any given Megadeth album, and they have many MP3 albums to buy. Now here's the thing, they will often have like different releases of a given album, and I'm not sure, but then they'll often have like an MP3 option within that release. I'm not sure if the MP3 option of like a given album is just the same between all the releases, so it's just sort of whatever MP3 edition they have, and it doesn't correspond to the release that they tell you they have for the particular version of the album that you selected. But nevertheless, if you don't have like an iPhone and you generally would otherwise use iTunes to buy digital albums, and you're in a place where you don't have your computer and you want to buy an MP3 album, but you don't have a way to buy it on iTunes, and you don't want to like make some Amazon subscription and buy it through that, or like make some blah blah blah, then Record Room AZ is really good, because again, you can just not make a subscription. You can check out as fucking guest. They give you the download of the MP3. They give you the downloads of the MP3 album. You download them, and that's it. Now, the downside of Record Room AZ is that they give you the page once to download the MP3s from, and then if you click away from the page, like if you go to another page, or maybe if you go into another app on your phone before you've selected to download each song individually and all of them, and then you go back, or maybe before you downloaded any of the songs, if you click away from the page and then you return to it, that's it. You don't get another chance. And you may be able to like email them and say, hey, I fucked up the downloads. Can you give me a link again to download the album? I just bought it. Maybe they'll give you a link, but that's the one downside of Record Room AZ. So I very carefully downloaded my way through the 20 tracks of Heretic, and then it looked like I had screwed up the last one. Then I went to look on my files, and the last song on Heretic, the file looked to have been downloaded, but the file size was so small that I thought, oh, it was probably an error. And I even sent an email. I sent a thread of emails with thread of emails with a screenshot in one of them of the file with other files, and saying like, see how small it is, I think I screwed up the download, until I listened to the album, what I had, and then I went on YouTube to listen to the final song in that special edition, and I realized it was only like 11 seconds long, and actually, not only had I properly downloaded it, and not only was the song actually on my phone in its, seemingly proper state, but it wasn't on the other app, because the other app just doesn't seem to show audio files that are shorter or smaller than a particular size, or shorter than a particular length. And so it's like, you know what? Like, I've had it up to fucking year with this. Like, why won't they show me all the audio files? I don't care if an audio file is less than half a second long. If it's there on my phone and it's audio, then I should be able to listen to it on this fucking app. So I downloaded a different music app as well. This one being one I don't know if I had ever downloaded before, as well as the recording one that I downloaded. And this music app seems to work fine. And it did show the last song in Heretic. So now you might say, well, Matt, that's all interesting. Morbid Angel, though. What is the amount of Morbid Angel albums that you have now? Is your Morbid Angel album collection complete? And I'm not fucking around. I'm not talking about live albums. I'm not talking about, they do A to Z, but a couple of them are live or whatever albums. I'm talking about studio releases. Well, I have the A, that's Altars of Madness. I don't have the B, that's Blessed Are the Sick. They released their albums in like A to Z, and so far I think they've gotten, if Kingdoms Disdained is their last studio release, I think their last major release, but they might have another one after that. But they've at least gotten to K, not all of them being just regular studio albums. So A I have, that's Altars of Madness. B I don't have, that's Blessed Are the Sick. By the way, for Altars of Madness, if you haven't seen it, there's an incredible rehearsal video of Morbid Angel in this fucking like his storage unit lot in Florida, just like playing some fucking Morbid Angel songs in the sun in like the late 80s, early 90s, and it looks like a video clip from back then, just somebody's fucking handheld, camcorder or whatever. And oh my goodness, it's a great, like, if you, like I hadn't at that time, if you haven't fully or perhaps in any way gotten into Altars of Madness yet, or even listened to it, and you're sort of maybe thinking like, well, people say Altars of Madness is so good, but I'm not sure, it sounds kind of chaotic and kind of bland to me. Check out that video. Not only is it amazing, but you get an impression of why people really like these fucking songs. Like, they are playing those songs so fucking well in front of that fucking storage unit with the drummer in the storage unit. They're wearing their fucking jeans and their fucking t-shirts, playing fucking death metal. It's incredible. Not only that, but I think in the most recent time I watched it, I saw that somebody had commented, like, at a certain point, the guy starts playing some of the guitar work from a song that wouldn't come out until it wouldn't come onto one of their major studio albums until Covenant, their third major studio album. But he starts playing, I think, God of Emptiness or something. And it's like, oh shit, that's pretty cool to think about. Like, they were noodling around with stuff that would become God of Emptiness, like in a fucking storage unit yard in fucking Florida. I mean, in sunlight, and of course it's got some magenta and some emerald green that starts coming up in the sun. For all of the Matt McKinley listeners out there, the people who might know what I'm talking about with that, those are the colors that seem to be the system colors these days, the magenta. And, going back a little bit, Matt McKinley refers to the emerald green as having been the previous system color. And Matt McKinley says the emerald green to him seems pure, but the magenta seems like it's sort of like a color of like artificiality or something. And it seems like the magenta is often paired with the emerald green, and it seems to be overtaking the emerald green in some things, particularly ChatGPT, where the logo is literally just like shapes, some of them emerald green and some magenta, and it seems like there might be a little more magenta than the emerald green. That's the fucking ChatGPT logo. Go check it out. Or that's like sort of the first page of their website. But yeah, this is it's a great video. I'll put a link to it in the description here if I post this. That video is one of my favorite videos of all time. It's a treasure. There are some, as I was talking about with the audio, there's some audio that's like treasure, like, it's sort of priceless. That is video that is treasure, that's priceless. Now, I'll tell you some video that's priceless that I have on this very YouTube channel. It's on episode 7, sort of my big, like, self-analysis, kind of explaining my whole situation episode. It ends, the Grand Theft Auto footage ends with one of the most incredible videos I have ever seen. And that is the video I made, where without knowing that I was even flying towards it, I did a failed attempt at flying off of a cliff in Grand Theft Auto. I went around a block, and then I drove back and actually flew off the cliff, flew over a fucking highway, and landed right on the start of either a mission or just like a cutscene right outside the fucking therapist's house. And so not only do I land on the start of it, but I literally landed, and Michael automatically opens the door to the car that he was in, and this therapist mission / scene starts. And at the very end of the video, you see Michael, like, the therapist opening the door for Michael. And it was perfect, of course, to have that in sort of the therapy video on Mixed Mattaphors. But anyway, that is one of the most incredible gameplay videos of all time. I wasn't sure if I still had it or if I'd still be able to get it because it was on my PS4, saved as footage from before I went to jail. But it's there, baby. And I think, it's actually in another one of my videos, I think, too. But that's a priceless video, and so is this Morbid Angel video. Okay, so I have Altars of Madness, and I'm continuing to grow in my appreciation of it. It really is a fantastic album, and recently I have started to really hear the incredible virtuosity that you can really hear and see, and in the seeing of it, notice even better in that video that I talked about with Morbid Angel outside the storage unit, or outside and inside it. But I've been appreciating the album more to the point where I realized oh man, it really is fantastic. And actually I went on Morbid Angel's website, and they have something written there. I think maybe it's in the biography section for the band. It's a thing. It is a thing where they talk about how with Altars of Madness, they were, in that time period, they were just trying to make the shreddiest, they were just trying to play better and faster and harder than any other band out there. They were trying to be the best, and you can really hear it over time. You really start to recognize, or at least I have started to recognize, how much that seems to be the case. They're just playing their fucking souls out on that fucking thing. They're playing their little hearts out. Now, we might call this episode Completing the Ritual, because there was a ritual that I was waiting to do, and it was actually a ritual based on fiction, and perhaps, I don't know if people consider this literary fiction, but perhaps a little more literary for the fiction. It was based on American gods, but there was a ritual that I was looking to do after I got out of jail, and that was go do the same thing that the character in American Gods does when he gets out of jail. Now, I haven't read all of American Gods. I think I might have read the better part of 100 pages of it, years ago at this point, really. Or I read at least up until they were in a car meeting this god of technology or whatever, or god of the internet or something. And anyway, earlier in the book, the main character, he's out of jail, and he's traveling around with this guy. And I think the first meal he goes and gets after he gets out of jail and goes somewhere on an airplane is a burger and a beer at a pub. And I thought, when I get out of jail, because they had that book in the little book cart in jail, and I remember sort of reading some of it in jail. I had already read more of it previous to that, but or prior to then. But I remember reading a part of it. I read a part of it, at least enough to get sort of there. I think at least enough to get sort of there, because then I sort of had in mind, when I get out of jail, I'd like to go, the first day I'm out, I'd like to go have a burger and a Guinness at Chili's or whatever. Now, the thing is, I wasn't allowed to drink beer. That was one of my very restrictive restrictions. Usually the restriction is essentially you can't drink beer to the point where you'd be pulled over for drunk driving, to .08 alcohol BAC, blood alcohol content level or whatever level. But for my restrictions, they said I couldn't drink beer at all, or I couldn't drink alcohol at all. Not like you can't drink alcohol past the 0.08 level. You can't drink alcohol at all. So for the 3 years of my probation, I didn't drink alcohol. I imagine many, or maybe even most people who are on probation end up drinking alcohol, at least because they probably say, well, how are they really going to fucking test me for this? As long as I don't like get seen drinking alcohol, or as long as I don't like have a record of buying alcohol like at a liquor store or something, then you know what. But I didn't, because I didn't want to lie. And if someone ever asked me, which they didn't, but if someone ever did ask me, like, have you drunk any alcohol during this probation, I didn't want to have drunk alcohol and then either lie to them or risk going back to jail. So the easy enough solution was follow the rules, don't drink the alcohol. So after probation ended, that the day my probation was over, like the first day after probation, I went to Chili's and I was thinking, well, I'd like to get a burger and a beer, or rather that's been sort of the idea, and I'd like to complete this ritual that I wasn't able to complete after getting out of jail if I was to follow the restrictions anyway, which I did, or at least more or less as well as I could. But I didn't drink any alcohol during probation, and I thus didn't go out and get a burger and a beer when I got out of jail. My first day off probation, I went to Chili's, and I was thinking, well, the only thing here is I don't eat meat anymore, so I don't want to get a burger. It'd be nice to get a burger and complete the ritual, but I don't want to get a burger. But what I can do is get a portobello burger, like a portobello mushroom instead of a patty. I think I might have ordered a portobello burger like years ago, and then I was bemused to find that it wasn't a burger with a mushroom on it. It was a mushroom as the burger. But in this case, that's what I was looking for. But unfortunately, not only did they not have a portobello burger at Chili's, which I thought I had, it seemed like Chili's was like a place that I had seen it before, but they didn't have a portobello burger on the menu. But not only that, they literally, I don't think, had a single entree on the menu that didn't have meat in it. So or if they did, it was like something that was like not that appealing to me. So what I did was I ordered some kind of like salad entree without the meat element. And like I ordered a thing of fries, and I got like, I think I might have only gotten one beer because they gave me a big like glass of it, and I don't think I even necessarily finished the one glass. So anyway, the ritual really, like, if we are to call this episode completing the ritual really hadn't been completed either after getting out of jail or after getting off probation. But I was thinking today or sometime in this little weekend period, I might seek out a place where I can get either a portobello burger or like a veggie burger. Now, given that I was thinking of getting a portobello burger as a substitute, and then I didn't end up getting it then, I think to get a veggie burger that's not a portobello burger might not be completing the ritual as much as, or even satisfactorily, like it might be with completing it with a portobello burger rather than just any given kind of veggie burger. So I looked at the menu from like a certain place that like I saw it recently, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go there. It seems like they might have like different burger options. And they have a substitution option for like some kind of non-soy, non-whatever, gluten-free, soy-free or something veggie burger. But I don't think they have a portobello burger there. So I think I might actually go to a place where they particularly have a portobello burger. I might call around too to say, do you have Guinness on draft? And do you actually have that portobello burger? Then it will be, I think that'll be good enough to complete the ritual. I. Anyway, let's go through the rest of those Morbid Angel albums. So, I have Altars of Madness. I do not have Blessed Are the Sick. Someday I would like to, I would like to have and listen to that album someday. But I don't have that. And by have, I mean I've either bought it on physical CD or bought it on digital. And with Morbid Angel, I don't have any of them on physical CD. I have a Death album on physical CD, but not a Morbid Angel album. So I do have their third album, or their third main studio album, Covenant. That's apparently like the best-selling death metal album of all time, or at least at one point I think they had called it that. And it took a while to sort of appreciate. Like, as with Altars of Madness, it wasn't so much that it rubbed me the wrong way when I listened to it. It was just more that it just sort of sounded sort of like, bleh. Like, it didn't, it wasn't engaging for however long before I started getting into it more. And with Covenant, I recently have been getting into it more, and I think last night I might have listened to Covenant, either that or maybe the night before. And whenever it was that I recently listened to it, I think it might have been last night. It was actually, or maybe not. Maybe it was like, actually, I think I listened to the rest of it last night, but I actually was starting to like feel it, like to really get into it. Similar to the opposite of Eminem's line where he's like, your style's like dying in my sleep. I can't feel it, or I don't feel it or something, but I do feel it, with Covenant. So, fucking asshole. This fucking piece of shit driving his fucking pickup truck. Ooh, look, I'm this big man driving a big pickup truck, and I'm gonna go in the fucking breakdown lane to get past the fucking traffic. Fuck you. I beep at him as he goes. I'm the only, not that I, look down on others for not beeping at him, but I'm gonna fucking beep at him. You're going past the traffic in this fucking little traffic jam in a breakdown lane just to get past the fucking traffic. Maybe he got stuck in the breakdown lane. It's possible, and then he was looking for a place to get in. If that's the case, then okay, that's fine. Or at least, it's not great, but okay. But it seems, sometimes it'll happen, regularly enough, actually, in this little Providence section of 95 South. And this fucking asshole, I beep at him, and then I hear like a sort of an extensive beep from ahead, and he had, passed, probably even the car ahead of me at that point, but I think it might have been from him, and it's like, wow, you're gonna fucking go past me? You're gonna fucking take advantage of me? You're gonna fucking cut me in line, and then when I beep at you, you're gonna fucking beep back at me? That's the kind of fucking asshole that just really fucking grinds my gears. That's the kind of piece of fucking shit asshole that I can't fucking really stand. I really can't fucking stand that animal. Okay, so anyway, Covenant has taken a while to get into. It's not like I listen to it and it's like, oh, I hate this. Just like Altars of Madness, it's more, I listened to it and it was just like, like, I don't know, it just sounds like, kind of some generic or bland or sort of like featureless guitar playing and some like, with the growling, the death growls. But over time, I've realized, wow, this is a really intricate and complex and just really musical album. Okay, now let's go through the rest of the Morbid Angel. Let's go through the rest of the Morbid Angel albums. So after Covenant, I've got Domination. Um, they have Domination, and so do I of theirs. And Domination is good. It has one of the most unpleasant album covers you've ever seen, and you might be thinking like, oh, like a gory image or something like that, and it's like not really. No, it's this really like abrasive set of colors on a paper. The album, I don't think I've really gotten into it yet, but I will say it felt a little more accessible than the prior two that I've talked about. So then again, it doesn't feel like it's going to have the same depth as the prior two to some extent. It feels a little bit less replayability, but it's pretty good. I will say it is very abrasive, similar to Independent Thought Patterns by Death, and so I think I might have listened to some of both of them like on the same day in the same car ride, and I was listening. I think I had gotten, or at least I think I was listening to some Stefan Molyneux at some point too. I don't know if Domination was in there that day. Maybe I had listened to it at work somewhat recently before then, or maybe not. I don't know. But essentially, the Death album, I was listening to that while I was driving, and I love the band Death. Death is so good, but I hadn't gotten into the album yet. I think it might have been the first time I was listening to it, and it was similar to I think the experience maybe of the first time I was listening to Death, and maybe both of them I had been driving around in Providence, maybe pizza, like buying a pizza from Hotline Pizza in Providence. There, that's a pretty good pizza place. But in any case, at least with the no, yeah, because I remember listening to like the Caesar's Palace song or something. I think that might have been a different time and much earlier in Providence, but it was just sort of feeling like, why am I even listening to this stuff? Like it was sort of like taking a breather and being like, this stuff is just really negative. But eventually, like it does grow on you, and it really does like become pretty sort of exceptional. I'm not sure if I've gotten to the exceptionality of Domination yet, and maybe there's just not as much exceptionality there that I'm going to end up finding there. But who knows? There though was exceptionality, and more easily even than Domination to get into with Gateways to Annihilation, which is the next album alphabetically and chronologically I have of theirs, and quite the sort of sterile in a nice way. Like a lot of their other albums have this sort of like seething kind of like dense toxic fog of unpleasantness around them, but this one is sort of sterile, and any of the toxic fog that might be there feels more like flavor to this like sterile but kind of galactic presentation of intergalactic empire, and it's really freaking good. And then I also have today I got Heretic earlier today this morning. I don't think it was in the PMs of last night, but in any case, Heretic is good. Perhaps the most accessible of all so far, actually. Although maybe it's just like I've gotten enough into the vibe of some of their other stuff that I just feel generally more in the Morbid Angel vibe, or at least whatever they're playing there, I feel more generally involved with it or in it. So, and then I also have Kingdoms Disdained. So I'll probably listen to Heretic a few more times before it's as easy to describe, or maybe just one more time before it's a little easier to describe, but I'm not sure how much I remember or took away from it this time. But I remember sort of enjoying it and kind of like going along with it. I was at work when I was listening to it, so I may indeed have been like doing work stuff or just whatever on the computer um, while listening to it. And so, like the whatever being like writing something or editing something, particularly perhaps the Mad Thoughts 2 edit.